Because of Brexit, the British meat producers expect a permanent slump in their exports to the European Union. The export hurdles we are facing are now clearly visible and will not go away, said British Meat Processors Association Chief Nick Allen, according to a statement on Wednesday. The members expected, due to new tariffs and bureaucratic hurdles, additional costs of 90 to 120 million pounds. That's 104 to 140 million euros per year. The export minus will be permanently 20 to 50%. To dismiss trade disruptions at the borders as short-term teething troubles is no longer credible, emphasized the association. The British government had spoken of teething troubles in view of trade problems after the final Brexit, and that means Britain's exit from the internal market and the customs union on January 1st. The British meat industry has felt the effects of Brexit more than most others, stressed the association. With the current export system, it is not possible to cope with the just-in-time supply chain for food, which we have built up with our closest neighbors over the past 30 years, they say. The industry is calling for more efficient and cheaper regulations for issuing the necessary export health certificates for the trade in live animals and animal products. This includes an electronic recording of the forms. A common veterinary area is also necessary. Veterinarians must issue the certificates, but there is still often confusion about the necessary documentation, as the Association of British Veterinarians had confirmed to the German press agency. Seafood and meat exporters have urged the government to overhaul export health certificates amid continuing costly delays for shipments to the EU. The Scottish Salmon Producers Organisation has called for the documentation to be completely redrawn and simplified, a request echoed by the British Meat Processors Association. Both organizations said exporters stood to face increased annual costs due to the extra red tape, with SSPO putting the figure at £2.5 million per member per year, and BMPA saying some of its membership could have to pay more than £10 million annually for EHCs alone, with costs ranging from £155 to £200 per certificate. Outlining the issue its members had faced, SSPO said processing EHCs had added at least 2 hours of delays per application compared with before Brexit, or more than 4 hours in egregious cases. But the organization admitted this was an improvement on the even lengthier delays seen in January. Delays were being exacerbated by the complexity of the forms it added. Certifying officers were having to cross out boxes for products the supplier was not exporting to the EU across what could add up to 12 pages of documentation, it said. This process has led to confusion and mistakes both in the UK and at EU border posts, according to SSPO. The organization said these holdups had resulted in lost orders, discounted sales, and disgruntled customers. Seafood exports are fundamentally important for both the Scottish and UK economies, said SSPO CEO Tavish Scott. Salmon is the UK's #1 food export. So we need government to reduce the costs and complexity that our sector faces. Export health certificates were never designed for perishable products like salmon, and therefore never should have been the document we are forced to use as exporters. Scott added he had received verbal assurance from Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove that the UK government would look to redesign, redraw, and simplify the certificate. However, it is understood such changes are not in the gift of the UK government, as the certificates are EU documents drafted within EU legislation. DEFRA said it was aiming to introduce changes to the way certifying officers completed forms to reduce delays, as well as the errors recently seen at Scottish hubs and at the French border. The department added that it had also been working with the French authorities to ensure goods have continued to flow into the EU, even if they carried small errors. We recognize the difficulties faced by UK seafood businesses affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are continuing to help them adjust to the new export requirements, said a spokesman. Meanwhile, the BMPA said that while EHCs were an issue for its members, they could not be viewed in isolation. It comes down to the fact that the entire export system is not designed to cope with the fast-moving fresh trade to near markets, said a spokeswoman. If these systemic problems are to be properly addressed, the UK government needs to urgently re-engage with the EU. She also urged the government not to delay setting up a trade specialized committee on sanitary and phytosanitary measures, which would greatly assist in identifying and resolving bilateral issues. Producers in Great Britain could once sell meat to EU customers as easily as they could at home. Since Brexit, exporters face a process of up to 26 steps, with every shipment logged in multiple databases and certified by realms of red tape. Before Brexit, it was as easy to send a shipment of meat to Bavaria as it was to Birmingham. But since Britain left the EU, trade with the continent requires significantly more paperwork, cost, and effort. Animal products such as meat have particularly high numbers of checks and documents. Before January 1st, meat exporters based in the UK only needed to obtain a consignment note, a so-called CMR, and a delivery note before their goods could be loaded onto a lorry and transported across the channel. Information from the government's Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, the so-called DEFRA, reveals that sending an identical shipment to the continent now results in a 26-stage process in order for meat to be exported from Great Britain to the EU. Certifying officers, typically vets, need to check each consignment before departure. Traders need to input details into at least 5 databases while obtaining multiple certificates, reference numbers, documents and permits, all of which result in a mound of paperwork. This could explain why exports of meat to the EU collapsed by as much as 92% in January compared with a year earlier, according to analysis of HMRC figures by the Food and Drink Federation. If a load is rejected, delivery can be delayed, and in the worst case, the goods are re-exported or even destroyed. As sausage maker Helen Browning's Organics discovered during their 2 attempts at moving meat from Great Britain to its manufacturing site in the EU since January, any errors in the paperwork, missing information or sheer bad luck can lead to shipments being held up for several days at French customs. Delays are not only costly for businesses but can result in a much shorter shelf life for perishable items, making traders unpopular with their retail customers or even leading to empty supermarket shelves. And I know that the associations want new solutions for the whole thing and want to get it easier from the side of the EU, but they must not forget the British government insisted on being a third country and not being involved in the customs union or the single market. And that is the consequence. You can only have it easier if you're inside the single market or the customs union, like the EEA countries, for example. Only if you are that closely aligned, you can have it easier. I'm absolutely sure that this will not really happen with all these certifications and so on, and I think the 26 steps will stay. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.